Welcome back, everyone. My next guest has been on with me now several times. I have with me Teresa Kiernan, if I said it correctly. I want to get that right. She is with DRYLUX Restoration. Welcome back to the show. We're going to bring that mic straight up to you. I want to talk. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, when things happen, when things go wrong, a lot of people out there, they get nervous and they get upset. They get upset first, right?
They do.
And they don't know what to do, and they end up calling, let's say, their insurance company, which is what people think they're supposed to do, but not necessarily. So welcome back to the show. I want you to tell everybody, because you're experienced on this.
I am.
I want you to tell everybody a little bit about your thoughts on what should happen when somebody has a catastrophe, flood or fire or what have you happen.
Well, first thing you do in the event of a flood, of course, shut off your water.
Right.
Shut off your water.
Isn't it the last thing you think of?
It is. In many cases, it is the last thing. And then the next thing you would do, and then of course, depending on the emergency fire, you get out of the house. Of course, there's nothing you can do in a case like that, but water, shut off the water if you know where that, the service valve is. A lot of folks might have them inside or outside. Shut that off. Call a professional. Call the professional first to see what type of damage or what is basically going on, so somebody can come out there and give you that evaluation. Like with DRYLUX, we are a 24/7 emergency restoration company as well. So take those steps. First thing, the water. Call that person out. Don't necessarily jump to calling an a insurance company as of yet. See what is actually tied up there first, and then you move on to the rest. And calling out a company that actually is knowledgeable and trustworthy in any type of a water, damage, remediation, anything. Call the professionals out first. Let them do the evaluation for you. It's a tough enough process it is to see something like that happen, especially when it's your home. It's your home.
I'm going to say this. A lot of people today, especially, we realize that the insurance companies are not necessarily, I'm sorry to say this, on our side,
Right.
And if I only knew that would be something I should have done first, because a lot of times it just depends on who comes to your house, right? And most of the time, in many situations, you said the last time that you were on here, that you're going to be paying out of pocket no matter what.
Especially if you have a deductible. Let's face it, there are home owners policies that do have a high deductible. So depending on what that deductible is, say if there's a job, if there's something that might be $2,000 or $3,000, but you have a $10,000 deductible, you're going to be paying out of pocket. If it's something that's substantially larger as well, if you get into, I met somebody that actually had a $150,000 water claim. They had gone out of town and a dishwasher went out of whack. They had about, I believe it was around $180,000. But something like that, completely different, I could see that. However, if it's something less than that deductible, instead of filing that claim and having it go on, your history, because you are filing that claim, you're gonna be under that deductible, so why file that claim? Call in a professional that can give you an honest evaluation. See if you do have to pay for that out of pocket. You're going to pay for that out of pocket regardless.
Right, but have somebody who's a professional,
right,
that he's there looking out for your best interest. And I want you to talk about DRYLUX. It's a family-owned business for 17 years here. Let's talk about that.
So DRYLUX has been around for 17 years. We are located out in Gilbert. So a lot of folks, you go through life and you experience meeting different companies, and you go through that word of mouth recognition, and with that you build the name, the trust. But it's nice because you have that company that has been out there because of the growth, the word of mouth. They've been around, they've been there for the customers, they've been there for the communities, whether it's home business or any other partnering partners within the community. You are there for each other. DRYLUX is great because of that time frame that they have been around. So they've been in the business, they do know, they do have the trust. they have the awareness that is out there for Arizona, within the communities, going outside of the communities, being there for their customers, clients,
They're all
et cetera.
about service,
They're all
that's for
about
sure.
customer
Both
service.
residential and commercial?
Residential and commercial.
Now, here's the thing, I'm gonna say this. A lot of times, we don't, it's not like you're gonna sit there right now and there's 100,000 people out there right now that have a flood going on or something happening.
Right.
So we know that, but what we want you to do is put the number in your phone so that when you are looking at, if God forbid something like this happens to you and you're in a situation, you'll have it in your phone under reputable restoration company. So the number to call them direct is 480-750-8220. Put extension 220 in there. And what you're gonna get from them is what I wrote down before, quality and experience.
Quality and experience, correct, right.
That's huge.
And trust, I mean, it goes a long way. You have to trust who you're welcoming in your home. I mean, it's hard to let somebody come in your home. You're going through enough as it is because something completely happened that's out of your control. There's nothing you can do. You know,
No.
there's nothing you can do. And at that point, you have to let
It just
go.
happened to you recently, you said.
It did, and it was unfortunate because I would have never known. Here, I just thought it was something that was maybe in a garbage can, and it started with a odor, and it just smelled awful, and it turned out because of sealant that was not properly put in a shower. In the bathroom, in the next room, not only went through the tiles, went into a closet that saturated, you know, a floor to where, you know, the entire wall had to be torn out, the vanities in the bathroom had to be torn out, the carpeting. So it went from one little thing, and I would have never thought, I never knew.
Let me tell you this, folks, when it starts to smell, it's been there for a while, you know,
and it was
and that's what's scary
and it
because
smelled
you,
like a cabin.
oh.
I thought it was something else to where, I mean, honestly, it's a closet I never go into. It's like a closet I hang things in, you know, that coats and things that, I'm from the Midwest, you're never really gonna use. So I just avoided the room and
Until
until something happened. It was awful.
Well, you want to make sure that you call somebody. They're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. They are statewide, but they are located here in Gilbert. They have been around for their clients for 17 years. So it's good to have this number in your phone under reputable restoration company, and that phone number is 480-750-8220. It's extension 220, and they are both residential and commercial. You also do mold,
Mold,
right? That was what you had?
It was mold, and there was still, believe it or not, water going in, because every time I take a shower,
Oh, God.
there's water that keeps going in there.
And
So the saturation, yes.
Another thing that people do not think about is biohazard, you know? And I tell you something, it's an interesting topic, and I actually like talking about it because it's so different. People don't
It
like to
is.
talk about this, but unfortunately here in Arizona, especially when we have our older folks that are living
Correct.
on their own, and maybe you don't live here and you haven't seen it, you haven't heard from your mom in about a month or so, or a
Right.
week, or whatever it's been, and oh my God,
And it does happen.
a lot. It happens a lot.
It does, unfortunately, and it's something you're never going to expect that you would have to just really be faced with in life, but you do, and that's what
I
we
hate
also
to
do
say
as
this,
well. Yeah.
but people don't realize you gotta clean it up. It's not for your, you know,
Exactly.
you think that other people are doing that, oh, the police must do that, or no.
No,
It is
no.
your responsibility,
Right.
and they do that as well.
Right.
So the phone number to call, put it in your phone. It's 480-750-8220. It's extension 220. And when we come back, we're going to talk some of the other things. I want to hear more about what happened to you, because what happened to you, I had that happen to me. Not the exact same thing. And by the way, if you think it only happens once, a lot of times people will have more than one issue like this, and now your insurance they're either gonna cancel you
They
or it's gonna
will.
go sky high.
Right, it's gonna be one or the two.
And I think that's what you wanna get out the most, is that people don't just sit there and just call your insurance company, that's what they think to do. But the best thing to do is have somebody come out and really assess everything for you and tell you what they think and give you a price so that you kinda know.
You need to get the estimate from a professional so you know exactly what you are dealing with.
And you just might be
Right.
paying out of pocket, no matter
A
what.
lot of folks do, regardless, unless, like I said, unless it's above and beyond, like the one gentleman I ran into last week, which I was really surprised, because you never hear of anything like that, and it was great. I mean, he had a good response.
Well, right now, we all know that the insurance is just going higher and higher and higher and higher anyway. If you have a deductible, you might as well call the professional first. This is DRYLUX, it's DRY and then LUX.com, both residential and commercial. They're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, 480-750-8220, extension 220. Hang tight, we're gonna be right back. We're gonna still talk in here because we are live, okay? I just gotta raise this thing, it's been going slower and slower and lower. Very interesting. Hi, honey, how you doing? You can have a seat, just make sure your phone is on off or silent, okay? Oh, it doesn't matter, it really doesn't.
Okay. There we go.
This is a little,
It's a tad loud for you?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, that's better.
okay. Yay. You don't have to worry, I'll take care of you. Are you okay with what you're doing?
You're great, yeah.
Thank you.
The gentleman, I have to say this, because the gentleman, they was talking about, who would have thought a dishwasher?
Would cause that much damage?
I guess the water, for some reason, the pressure was so strong with the water. Popped the door open, was shooting, went up the walls, and he had cameras in his kitchen. It even recorded. He was out of town
Oh.
for 6 weeks. It recorded everything every time this thing went on. And he said, unless you saw the video, you would never believe it.
Can you imagine? And a lot of people, look, we gotta
No.
talk about this. This is what we're gonna talk about when we come back.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people right now are getting ready to go, you know?
Yes.
All those snowbirds that are getting ready to go a little bit later than they used to because it's so cold out where they are later
Right,
now,
exactly
right?
right.
But boy, do you wanna make sure you have somebody that you can call when you're
Exactly.
gone for that long.
Right. It
So this is a good story, I'm glad you have it.
He was really baffled, and the one joke he took away with it was, at least I know I had good water pressure. And it was like, and it was a little thing I do every other Wednesday at a plumbing supply company, and just to hear this, it was just unbelievable.
That's so funny though.
I wish you would have had the video, because I would have loved to see that.
Yeah, he doesn't have it?
He does, but he didn't have it on
Oh,
him or
that's so
anything, but
funny. He should have that on his phone.
He was, that's right. He was completely shocked. I would be just shocked. That I couldn't imagine.
It does happen. I mean, listen, when I lost my house in the earthquake, that wasn't something that I could ever, I mean, it was terrible. We had
It's
$170,000.
Yeah,
go.
unimaginable.
So welcome back, everyone. You know, during the break, we sort of talk and everybody, we don't realize it, but we are live here in the room still when we're on break, and I get to know a little bit more. That's because everybody gets a little bit more relaxed, right? They're thinking, oh my God, I just got through that part. But during the break, you were mentioning a story about the one that you were talking about, but it went a little bit further.
Right.
And I want you to get up on the mic so everybody can hear, because when it comes to restoration and things, everybody now has that story that they live with for the rest of their life.
Correct.
right?
That
Let's
is
tell
correct.
about what happened on this one guy that was gone for how many weeks?
It's 6 weeks.
Okay, go ahead.
So he was gone for 6 weeks, and evidently, what had happened was, and this was on camera, he did have cameras in his home, it was the dishwasher. The pressure was so strong, the door had popped open, and this was somehow, it would go off in the just the water, the water shooting up on the walls, the floor. So this went on for 6 weeks.
Like a sprinkler.
Like a sprinkler. And he said,
Can you imagine being gone for 6 weeks? And a lot of you ladies and gentlemen are going to be going soon.
It's crazy because you need to make sure, and you cannot really shut off your water, so what do? I don't know, check the water pressure, but in his case, yes, he was gone, he came back. But there was so much damage, so not only was it his, the floor, he had tile, which you never realize, I didn't really know, there, water seepage underneath tile can also lift, you can see that too. But the walls, the ceiling, his countertops, and if something dries, it's gonna absorb down, but that can go into a room.
How about just the floors warping
Right,
from that?
exactly, right.
They lift.
But it's just, I cannot imagine walking into something like that, but then to catch it on camera, to where, like I said to Carol in this place, he didn't have an issue because this was on a recording. However, it happened.
Mm-hmm.
It happened, and he said that the company was great, the insurance company, but they had, at that point, there are companies that will call in, but
And
they
that's
didn't
a
call in.
huge, dollar expense that's when you're
Yes.
gonna call, obviously, your insurance company. When it is something that you don't know what it is, and of course, we always think that it's gonna be, that'll reach my deductible, but then you're wrong, because you don't know how it's gonna be looked at. And
Correct.
I happen to know this, and I'm just gonna tell my story. I mean, I lost my house, and when I lost my house in the Northridge earthquake, I'm telling you now, there was so much damage, and the person that we had just came in and said, you can get those in Home Depot and fix that. I'm like, that's not how it was originally.
No.
You really wanna make sure that you have somebody that is on your side, because the insurance company is really on their side. They're not supposed to be, but they're on their own side.
Yeah, unfortunately, you don't want to think of things that way. That's where you do. You want to make
We
sure.
see it
the
happening every
company-
day now.
Yeah, the reputable company does come in, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you are not going to have a repeat. Like if you do not, for one, water damage. If that water is not dried up, you can have mold set in 24 to 48 hours, but think if not everybody, you have a company that comes in and they're not doing the proper dry out. You can have mold develop and build, and then you can have something come up 4, 5, 6, 7 months down the road, and then you're there smelling good. Gosh, that really smells awful. What is that? Checking garbage cans and everywhere else, you don't see anything, so you walk out of a room. But it's the little things like that. If it's not done properly by a professional, and using the proper tool, you have the equipment, the proper, what you are doing, let me rephrase that, correctly in a restoration job to rebuild it properly, you can have the same thing happen again.
Sort of like a rotted wood, and you
Yes.
just cover it up. Well,
Water.
it eventually is gonna break through
If you-
because it just doesn't like it like that.
Exactly, and if you have, say restoration, say if you have a pipe, crack in a wall, and if that's not done, you can say, okay, I'm gonna tear out the drywall, dry that out, but no, guess what? It did go into your wood. What holds your walls together? You have support beams, they're made out of wood. What happens over time if that's dry rotted, it dries out, and guess what? You can, all of that, you, believe it or not, can follow it. You could, connect the dots on how it started and it was not finished, repaired properly.
So what you wanna do is make sure that you do have a reputable restoration company that you can call. They do have an emergency response team. They've been around for 17 years here in Gilbert, but they do work statewide. They do both residential and commercial. They do free in-home estimate. It's free for them to come, so it really makes sense for you definitely to call them first, because calling your insurance company, it's the wrong move. Not first. Make sure that you get a reputable company that comes in, and DRYLUX would like to be the people that you call. And you can put the number in your phone, 480-750-8220, extension 220. And usually these things happen at the worst time.
At the worst time.
Not the right time for you.
Not the right time, unexpectedly, when you're not home. You could be at work, you could be gone 8 hours and have a water pipe break with a water heater. Or the other thing that's coming out, air conditioning. So those folks that have not had your air conditioning on, especially if you have one up above, I'm learning.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? You're gonna fire that up and all of a sudden something might seize or this way or that way, and you know what, guess what, all of a sudden you have a leak. The same thing, so you never know when it's going to happen. We're getting into that season to where, like you said, there's a lot of folks that are gonna be going back out of town. You know, there's some folks that might actually be coming back into Arizona, whatever the case may be. You never know when that time can hit, and whether it's, you know, whether it's water, unfortunately, fire, storm damage. Monsoons are going to be coming up. Think of all the storm damage we get with monsoons. You know, the biohazard. There's so many instances out there you might not realize you need a restoration company. And the good thing about DRYLUX too is we do start to finish. So, you know, it's having that start to finish is good, especially when you know, you're gonna be tied in, and from that point, you know, you're gonna be taken care of by the one company. And there again, it ties in with the 17 years, the experience, the trust, everything that goes into making that company whole, and why we've been around that long.
Yeah, I mean, I would want to call a company that's been around that long. Unfortunately, a lot of times, we still remember the commercials, right?
Yes.
And they think about commercials and they just call that person and they'll say, oh yeah, we do that. Well, they're not really the ones that you want to call. You want to call people like, suddenly when you hear this, they're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. Put the phone number in your phone under reputable restoration company. The website is DRYLUX, so dry and then LUX.com, both residential and commercial. They're bringing you quality and the experience, and they know what it feels like to be in your shoes.
Absolutely, 100%.
And it can happen at any time. That number to call is 480-750-8220, extension 220. They are statewide, but they do have a place right here located in Gilbert.
That is correct.
You know, and we were talking a little bit about, and I happen to like to talk a little bit about biohazard, only because we don't like talking about this kind of stuff, and it happens. And that's why you need to be prepared that you have somebody, because believe me, when it happens, it's almost like you don't even know what to do.
Yeah, you don't know what to do, and you're gonna call who you need to, but the fire department, the police department are not gonna be able to come in. They're not gonna do that cleanup. So that's where you are gonna need somebody that does also specialize in the biohazard cleanup.
Right, that's specialized.
It is, and there's just, it's just not basically coming in and cleaning up and
No,
using
and
soapy
everything on
water.
television.
That's really not
I don't mean
the
to
case.
interrupt you,
No,
Vicky.
you're
I was going to
fine.
say this. I have to say it before. TV is not what happens in real life.
No, it's not.
Right? It doesn't look like it's all cleaned up and they just sort of lift up in the body and they go. No, because people don't realize that things happen.
That's right.
When this occurs.
Right.
And if it's there for a long time, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So you got to make sure you know that you're calling somebody who is reputable, and they do all of your emergency needs, if I say that correctly.
Is correct.
Okay, you can check them out on their website. It's DRYLUX, LUX.com, and they are both residential and commercial. They're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. They do free in-home estimates for you. They want you to call them first before you call your insurance company, because you could be just paying out of pocket no matter what, and you want somebody who's going to give you that whole breakdown of what it is and what it's going to cost before you call them. Again, that phone number to call direct, it's 480-750-8220. It's extension 220. Go to DRYLUX.com.